It is time to go ahead and process this ornamental pineapple. Come join me. Hi, I'm Elise. I'm glad that you stopped by. This is Ananas camosus bracteatus, and sometimes they call it variegated because of this beautiful variegation in the leaves. It is a wild or red pineapple. There's about 4 to 5 varieties of ornamental pineapples. This is the only one that I have ever grown, and I have been growing it for quite a while. Normally, I will remove all of the propagules, and we'll talk about those in just a moment, when they are, a half a foot long, something like that. This year, I thought, well, I'm just going to let this stay on and see what happens. I want to see how big they'll get. And the other day, I was looking at it, and I reached down to pull a weed, and it had disengaged from the stem, from the mother plant. So I said, well, obviously, it's time to process this pineapple. What you're looking at now is the crown. And look how big. So let's talk about propagules just a moment. A propagule is any vegetative material that the parent plant puts out to reproduce itself. A propagation tool, a propagule. On the ornamental pineapples, there are 3, 4, sometimes 5, depending upon how you count them, propagules. I did lots of research on the names because on the internet there is some confusion. People call them all different kind of names. And of course you can call them any name you wish. Always make sure you wear gloves. This is serrated. I called our local agricultural extension agency. I contacted our state university's agriculture department. I looked up some information on other state university departments. The names I'm going to share with you came from all of that research. Okay, first we have the crown. Just like on your gold pineapples that you buy from the grocery store, you have a crown. On the ornamental pineapple, underneath, you'll get all of these auxiliary crownlets. Let's see if I can break one off. This is an auxiliary crownlet. You can plant this out. It will grow and make a whole plant. I haven't had any of my crownlets produce fruit yet, but I imagine they will. But even if they don't, look at how pretty that variegation is. They make beautiful ornamental plants. And I will share this. This pineapple is rotten. I think maybe I let it stay on too long. So we have the crown and we have the crownlets. The pineapple is going to turn colors. When it first started, it was a brilliant fire engine red. The older it got, the bigger the propagules got, the more the energy was sapped out of the pineapple. At the base of the pineapple, this is where the stem would have been on this end. And like I said, it just disengaged from the stem, it just fell off. This is called a slip, S-L-I-P. A slip grows at the base of the pineapple. Sometimes it looks like it's right at the beginning of the stem. And here is some more that started, but they never developed. And here is another one that started and never developed. And this is where the stem was. It just broke completely off. So this slip makes a wonderful propagule. And I'm going to just go ahead and pop that off. Like that. Isn't that pretty? That is a nice size slip. All right, I have read that you can also propagate the pineapple via the stem. I don't know. I tried it one year. It didn't work for me. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying it didn't work for me. Now, I don't know if perhaps the article was suggesting that the stem where it joins the fruit and you have slips, that's where you can go ahead and propagate it. I'm not sure. Anyway, it didn't work for me. And what I'm going to do, which probably won't work, but I'm going to try it anyway. These little incomplete slips, I'm going to plant out. All right, next, you have suckers or offshoots, offsprings, pups, plantlets, whatever you want to call them. They grow on the plant itself, on the parent plant. They do not grow on the pineapple. You have one other way to propagate this plant. Sometimes it will put out a plant called a ratoon. I always remember it because it rhymes with cartoon. And a ratoon is where an underground stem came out from the parent plant and that new plant came up and formed a whole new plant. It is suggested you go ahead and you sever that stem underneath the ground so that the parent plant isn't putting out lots of energy to the ratoon. Now, I do have a ratoon that's actually larger than the parent plant it came off of. I never severed it. And the parent plant did go ahead and produce a pineapple again. But that is entirely up to you. So we have the crown, the crownlets, a slip, maybe a stem. I'm not going to count the stem. A sucker and a ratoon. So we have 5 ways that this pineapple can propagate itself. And of course seeds. Seeds are another whole ball of wax when it comes to pineapples. So today I'm going to go through, I've already removed my slip. I'm not going to remove the suckers because I like mass planting. So all my suckers will stay in with the mother plant, the parent plant. Let me share this. These terrestrial pineapples are monocarpic, which means they're going to bloom one time, they're going to set fruit one time, and then the mother plant will eventually die back. But normally she dies back so slow and gradual, and by then there's more suckers put out that you might not even notice it. All right, let's get started. I don't want to damage my large crown. I'm going to go ahead and take some of these off. Normally you don't even need a knife or anything. They'll just pop off. If they don't pop off enough for the root, then go ahead and take your knife in. I'm going to just cut through here and separate this some. And there's one came off. And another thing about leaving them on this long, I mean, the curlies are cute, but I would rather have a more defined plant, if you know what I mean. And this is a knife. Knives are sharp. Well, I think I can't tell. I think I might have gotten into my crown. But you know what? That's okay if I did. Let's see, here's the crown. There's a propagule. Okay, yay, I left enough of the crown. This is the crown. And all of these are crownlets. And they're almost as big as the crown itself. But each one of them can be planted out. They'll make beautiful plants, just give them a little bit of time. Now, I am left with this little sad pineapple. Let's cut it. See what it's going to look like. First, I'm going to come in here, because if I decide to go ahead and try to keep that, I'm just going to plant the whole thing. I don't know if it will work. Won't hurt to try. This smells like a rotten pineapple. Sometimes they don't have any smell. But the animals will like this. What I'm looking for is some seeds. And there's one. So what we have here, if you've ever cut a regular gold pineapple up, the one you get at the grocery store, this was the core, which is all now really rotted, and the flesh, the seeds are going to be right along the edge of where the peel meets. And that might be a little seed there. But this is definitely a seed. That little black. See if I can get it up without losing it. So that's a seed. And I am going to save my seeds, and I am going to plant them. Although, from everything I've read, it takes a very, very long time for the seeds to germinate, and then even longer for them to get to the size of actually producing a viable plant. But, you know, I love seeds, so I am going to try. I opened a pineapple last season, and there were, I don't know, 30 or 40 seeds in it. I was quite shocked. I did plant them. Now, I don't know if I didn't leave them in long enough, but they never germinated. So here's another little seed. There's a seed. I'll go through this really, really carefully in just a moment and get out all my seeds. Okay. So I'm going to count these and see how many pots I need. So the big, really pretty propagule is the crown. This was the sucker from the bottom. Really pretty. Those will both go in their own pots. Everything's going to go into their own pot. So let me share with you what I do to get these ready to plant. Just like a pineapple, look, it's already got a nice root. I'm going to go in here and tear some of these bottom leaves off. I really don't want to mess up the roots though. That has several nice roots. Be gentle. Okay, and what that does, it gives me enough room to put this in a pot. Pineapples normally have somewhat shallow roots, so I don't need to plant it real deep. And I'll just put it in a pot. That will straighten all up and grow, and it will be really, really pretty. Variegation. I don't know if you've grown very many variegated pineapples before. This variegation is going to change. It's going to shift. I can't figure out why. Weather, planting conditions, it's the 5th Thursday of the 20th month, whatever. If it's putting out a pineapple, the variegation changes a lot. Shade, sun, weather, all those conditions can change the variegation. But it is really pretty. All right, so that will go into its own little pot. Water it good. I'm going to set it in dappled light to begin with. Probably give it a little very weak fertilization, a liquid fertilizer. Either a little Epsom salts, about a tablespoon per gallon of water, maybe a little fish emulsion, a tablespoon per gallon of water, or maybe my green biomass tea that we make out of the Bolivian sunflowers. But I'll give it a little fertilization to help it along. But that's all you do to get these ready to go ahead and pot up. Now once they're established and I think they're over all the planting stress, I'll move them more into dappled sun, not direct sun, because they will burn with this variegation. Look at the roots. But you don't want to keep them in too much shade. You know, that sunshade variation affects the variegation of the plant. So I'm going to have quite a few here. Look at those roots. It's going to take me a few minutes to go through and clean them all up and get some pots ready. Be back in just a minute. Potting up all of the propagules that I took off of the pineapple. been working on the auxiliary crownlets. I ended up with 15 crownlets. One big crown, one big slip, and of course a sucker that was left on the mother plant. That's a lot from one pineapple. Okay, I've already got, I don't know, 5 pots potted up of the crownlet. And I'm putting them in a quart-sized pot. And I'm just using some all-purpose soil. I've already cleaned all the edges off. They do have roots. Most of them have roots, so that's really nice. And they don't have to be planted really, really deep. Just enough to hold them upright. Well, I'm going to turn that one around so it's pretty with the curve of the pot. Okay. And it's that easy. Come back and backfill a little bit if I need to. I'm not putting labels on all these. I know what they are. I will water them very, very well, including misting the top to get them nice and clean. They'll go in dappled shade, somewhere where it's warm. It won't take them long at all to grow. Isn't that pretty? Especially since they have roots on them. Look at that one. Look at that variegation. Got some little root systems. And I like to do this kind of like an assembly line. I go through, I clean off all of my stems first. And then all I have to do is stick them in. So pretty. They are a terrestrial bromeliad. Bromeliads are really tough. And these have been kind of ignored because I was letting them grow, and I didn't realize that the pineapple had popped off of the stem and was actually just laying down on the ground. But I guess that's how it does it in nature. So if you don't let them grow this long, you'll get nice, pretty shaped propagules. That's what I've got in the past. But there's nothing wrong with that. That is just gorgeous. Really pretty. I'm going to move these out of the way. And I'll finish the auxiliary crownlets in just a minute. I'm going to plant this great big crown. I've got a 2-gallon bucket, and it's just filled with some very soft, well-draining soil. I did clean this off some, and I can take a couple more leaves off if I want to. Give me a little bit more stem room. Got a few roots down there and some more growth coming. In the same way, if you'll take your hand and cup it up and hold the leaves out of your way, it really helps. Make sure you have your gloves on. They are heavily serrated. Let's put it down, snug it in good, and that's it. How easy. Now, I am going to come back and backfill this a little bit, and I am going to put a label on this, just for my own personal use. I like to keep the crown separated from the slips. Just me. They both are fantastic propagules. They both will grow beautiful plants, and they both will set fruit. So that's it. So I'm going to go get some more pots ready. This is the slip. Neat, huh? Isn't that pretty? The slips grow on these little bulbs. And remember, I showed this one earlier, where these 2 bulbs started, but they didn't go ahead and grow. Anyway, I'm just going to put that whole thing down in a little pot and see what happens. I don't really expect anything, but I will be very pleasantly surprised if these go ahead and produce something, because there really isn't enough energy left in here, I don't think, to do this. Okay, get me another 2-gallon pot for my really pretty slip, and I have 8 of the propagules, the auxiliary crownlets planted, and I'll finish the rest of those in just a few minutes. I did go through the rest of the pineapple, and I found, oh, I don't know, a dozen seeds, but I am going to plant them. I washed them and I put them in this little strainer. Neat. Okay, something else I want to show you. What we're looking at here is a little mass planting from the red pineapple, and these are 2 other types of propagules. As I shared earlier, there are numerous propagules for the red pineapple. On the pineapple fruit itself, you get the crown, the auxiliary crownlets, and the slips. On the mother plant, you will get a ratoon or a sucker. So let's look at these. This plant is a sucker, and I'm using a stick just to point because I didn't have my gloves on, and these are highly serrated, so you always want to wear your gloves. A ratoon is a plant that grows from an underground stem that the mother plant puts out. It is suggested that you dig the ratoon up while it's young and move it away so that you sever the connection with the mother plant. The idea being, if that connection is severed, the mother plant will not put any more energy out to the ratoon. I did not do that because I wanted a mass planting. The mother plant produced a pineapple fruit. It was fine, but feel free to separate it out if you would like. This will produce a very large plant. This one's almost 5 foot tall if you stretch the leaves out, and 2 or 3, maybe 4 feet around. Here is a beautiful sucker, offshoot, pup, whatever you would like to call it. Again, if you stretch the leaves out, it's going to be almost 5 foot tall. Underneath here, you can see some of the leaves from the mother plant. She will eventually die back, but it's very gradual. And the pup is so large, there's not a problem. I do anticipate fruit this next season from this sucker. Here's another sucker or pup. Beautiful, very large. I anticipate fruit this next season. Now there's not much left underneath here, so most of the mother or all the mother has already died back. Okay, let's walk over here. We had a little storm, so we've got some debris down and everything, but it's okay. Pineapples did very well through it. All right, here is another young sucker or pup. This one came off of the plant that produced the red pineapple that I just harvested and cut up. The mother plant is still underneath, and some of it is already dying off. It will die back gradually. Here is another sucker or offshoot or pup. And I mentioned that I had 2 pineapples. I had left them to go natural. One of them completely rotted away because I left it too long. This is the mother plant that produced that pineapple. And this is the sucker from that mother plant. And underneath are some limbs, some leaves from the mother plant. And let me show you this beauty. Look at that. Look at that variegation. Isn't that great? Now the mother plant on this one is just about completely gone. And if I could get in there and clean it up a little bit, it would just be a freestanding plant. I anticipate a fruit off of this one this next spring. Now these 2 will probably be too young since they just came up this last spring. On this particular variety of ornamental pineapple, I've always gotten just 1 sucker. The sucker starts growing just as soon as the pineapple plant puts out the bloom and starts forming the pineapple. But other varieties may be a little different. So those are two more types of propagules, the ratoon and the sucker, that you can use to propagate the ornamental red pineapple. And just a little growing tip, they don't like full hot sun, this particular variety. They like a little sun, a little shade, dapple light. Give them plenty of room. And if you're putting them outside, don't put them too close to a walkway or any kind of travel path, a vehicle path, anything like that. You don't want to be hitting up against these serrated leaves. Now I have mine underneath a tree with a very high canopy, and they really seem to like it up there. The tree gives them some protection if the weather gets a little cold, and we do have a couple of freezes sometimes here in Zone 9B. Last season we had 2 freezes. We got to like 26, 27 degrees, but it was a short duration freeze. The pineapples did fine. There was no indication that they went through any stress. Easy to grow, low maintenance, disease pest resistant. Just give them room, give them some water. They are a bromeliad, a terrestrial bromeliad. That's it. And until we can visit again, I hope you have a fantastic day.